So you're liking the Zoom platform, huh? It's working for you?
Well, it's the only thing that I can do this from my computer with.
Hmm.
You're not able. You can go. We could do side by side on iOS, but like whenever I gotta like set my phone up, and it's weird. So I don't know.
Hmm.
So
But you were able to use this Zoom for other things, right? Not just these.
I use Zoom for webinar, like video calls all the time. Like I can send you a link
Mhm.
and you can log in, but to broadcast via Facebook, it's like an extra thing. So I'm going to attempt to. Anyways, what's going on, dude?
We've been busy.
Yeah,
I've been
been
busy.
busy. It's been a couple weeks. It's all good, man. I get it. I've been totally busy too. I got babies crying outside the door. We're figuring
Hmm.
that out, and it's just it is what it is.
Yeah,
I
I think to kick it off, we're live right now. We're there.
say that one more time, dude. I'm sorry.
We're live right now.
Yeah, we're live right now.
Okay, cool. I think a cool way to start would be to acknowledge a little bit of the way that I've been feeling about missing these calls. So there's two in a row, and I like to talk about both of them. It's
Do it.
kind of just as an exploration, as much as this is an exploration. So why not explore it? Uh, the first time I just scheduled myself poorly and ended up taking a lot longer to do an activity that ended up being really important that I've benefited from every day since that day. So it was a noble sacrifice. However, I experienced a lot of interesting energy about it. Like something about these conversations had already started to feel really sacred at that point. Once I realized that I broke the commitment, it was like, ouch, it really stung.
Mm-hmm.
And then the second time, I can't even remember what the hell I was doing.
You were
Oh,
stuck in traffic.
I had to go to birthday. I had to go to my
Oh yeah, that's
girlfriend's
right.
mom's birthday, and it was a no-brainer decision. Like I really couldn't debate it in my head which one I was going to do. It was the night of her birthday, so it made sense. But I still felt like I had a really like interesting amount of negative energy to process on the overall decision to do that. So I don't know. It's been interesting. I don't fully understand it, but it's been good to experience with just such a simple commitment like a 30-minute conversation with you.
It's I'm glad you bring this up and thanks for sharing. It's one of these things that because I know you and I have done some very unique training and commitment and what it means to say choosing in and stuff like that. Me and you've done a lot of the same exact seminars and stuff over the past few years. And one of the things that I find is really interesting is that at what point during that commitments phase do we allow ourselves because in that with that specific company, it's like you said you were going to do this, you better do it on pain of death, more or less, you know.
Yep.
But it's like when does that become when is that no longer conducive to like a healthy life? You know,
Yeah.
when do we allow ourselves? Because I know me and you, we have this conversation all the time. It's like the one of the things that Dustin and I also learned. It's like if you're busy and you don't answer the phone, you don't need to text a person and say that you were busy. You know, like you didn't answer the phone. They should be able to figure that out. You know, and if they
Mhm.
aren't able to figure that out, I'm inviting you all who are listening to me say that to check in with that, like figure that out. If somebody doesn't answer your phone or they're late, if they leave you on red or whatever, it means they got other more important shit going on. And so it's just one of those things like, but where's that line drawn? Because I remember, because I think I canceled one as well. I
Mhm.
remember I had something come up. It was with I think
You
it was
had
with children.
baby disaster, I believe.
Yeah. I had a children chat. Oh yeah, no, that was a week after Pippin was born, or maybe the week after that. I
No,
don't
it
remember.
was baby disaster. I remember.
Mhm.
You were like
Yeah, it
two.
was a baby thing. It's just like yeah, but what point do we where's the line between honoring your commitments, like 100% honoring them, and also giving yourself the leeway to adjust, you know?
So
And so
I,
it's
I
just
think that's I think it's a great question, and the way that I approach that on a personal level, like, is I look at like what was I going with this? Oh, repeat your last statement. I lost my train of thought.
my last statement was, where do we draw the line between like 100% honoring our commitments, keeping our promises, and like also
Mm.
giving ourselves the leeway to adjust, and I guess in certain like absolutely break promises. Like I promise I'll be at your dance recital or whatever, and then something comes up that takes a dance recital may not be a great example, but it's just like, you know, we make promises all the time as people. And I know for me, one of my things in the last week and a half is to practice saying no more. Is it like absolutely? And I think for me, and then maybe this is going to answer my own question, but for me, by saying no to people, it keeps me out of the situation where maybe I have to break my promise later. Does that make sense? Yet in this instance where me and you were going to meet every single Monday night until we decide not to do this, like, dude, stuff comes up on Monday nights just like it comes up on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, or whatever other days. And so it's just like, yeah. So I guess like,
I remember.
I don't think. Go ahead.
I remember where I was going. So how I deal with the emotion that comes up. So we've gone through this training like you were talking about, and so we have like this like seminar guilt almost that we kind of feel when we're not doing our shit right. It's like so how I deal with that is instead of putting a judgment on that sensation, like as it being a negative situation or whatever, I just take it as like as an indicator to pay attention to like everything that I'm experiencing. So instead of having like a harsh judgment, just to like knuckle down my attention and focus on everything that I'm experiencing and be like, okay, well, like what's the root of this and what's the fruit of this? Like where is it coming from and where's it going and what's all really happening? And so coming out from that angle, whether it's the choice to miss our conversation, the truth is what I learned is that these things are important to me, that I recognize that talking with you, every time we do this, I get better at having these types of conversations, and my public speaking ability increases and my ability to recover from X, Y, and Z when I lose X, Y, and Z here or whatever. Like I practice all of these different things and I realize how important that is. So the swing of the pendulum of deciding to suffer through breaking a commitment that I made to you, I learned how much I really do value these conversations and how important I think that they are for me as a speaker and as a provider of information to people. It's good stuff.
No, I appreciate that all. It's interesting. This has been, I've been thinking about this a lot this week. It's just,
it started with your question. I mean, you asked me like, what's your guilt about?
Yeah,
like,
for
okay.
sure. Yeah. Yeah, I remember asking you, but I think that's important. So it's still digging for the root, huh?
Yeah, and that's what it is. It's like that
just still digging.
I'm connected to this being a part of my growth. And so it's like every day that I take off of this, I'm taking off of me growing myself, which hurts. It hurts when like I'm taking a day off today from something that I know helps me grow. It's interesting. Just means pay attention. Like, what's more important? Sometimes it's
I like that too. I like that, and I think too. But this is a good one. Like I'm deep in here today. You're in here. I like the ones where I got less to say and more to feel about.
Yeah, totally.
Because I keep going back to the thing. It's like, okay, I feel guilty about missing this. It hurts that I miss this. I know I'm missing out on something, yet you chose to be somewhere else. Can that take you out of that experience where you're at too? So it's like a double-edged sword. Like you could acknowledge. So it's like kind of.
It's good to experience both though, because then it ups the wager of a commitment. Like if you experience, oh my goodness, this is amazing.
Keep going.
She took my breath away, man.
No, I know. Isn't she great?
Yeah. Like she's huge, man. I can't believe it.
She's 2.5. She'll be 2.5 on December 8th. It's nuts, man. She's grown up.
Super chill, man. Amazing.
It's here.
That's Dustin.
Yeah.
Yeah. You want to go say hi to mommy?
Let's see. What's his name?
What's his name? His name's Dustin. We're talking about stuff. And all the little people watching are so excited to see you. Say hi, people.
Amazing.
Let's go see mommy, okay? Go see mommy. Go see mommy.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Love you. And so I think that's a perfect example. Perfect example of like allowing ourselves to be like wherever we are. And dude, you weren't here. I didn't tell you this. We'll talk about this again because I want to talk about the Friday before last Monday. So 10 days ago, Charlie slapped her little sister, who was like 3.5 weeks old, like bitch slapped her. And I was holding Pippin, and as a reaction, whack, it slapped her right back, man. And so Natalie, who jumped on here last week, we talked about it a lot, but it's been like the noticing in that, and like these things that happen to us, right? These events, and like the pain that I experienced from doing that, yet knowing in my head that it was a protective reaction, that I'm actively protecting another life. But still, it's like this guilt on both sides.
Totally.
Yet, I have been a much more present and caring father to Charlie, the older one, much more with it since doing that. And so it's very interesting how these events can still really, even though they're shocking and they can be violent at times, and I just reference the violence specifically to this, it's just like my ability to be tender is just like, it's like all that angst and anger and stress that we were feeling like the first 3.5, 4 weeks of the pregnancy was like, whoosh, I just had to get it out there. And it was like this whole I don't know, it was like, and I hate to say it that way, but it is what it is.
It's what happened. It's not
what happened.
Yeah.
It's just what happened.
Grounded out of you. Grounded out of you.
And but I've just been like,
how did she interpret the receiving of that action? You froze. You froze.
I'm believing just like this.
You froze.
Okay, I'll wait.
All right, you're good.
Okay, cool. So I'm holding Pippin like this, left hand on top. Charlie slaps her right in the face, and then my left hand just comes off. Charlie like falls back on the ground, and she looks at me. She's got this look of shock on her face, and she's like, "Daddy, don't hit me." And I looked at her like exacerbated, like shock on my face. And I looked in there, and I was like, "Don't hit your sister." Like kind of like, oh, like crying to her for help. You know what I'm saying? And then McCare comes in, and I was like, "I just hit Charlie." But then she was like, "Daddy, you can't hit me." Like just told me, like matter of factly, she's like, "You can't do that." And it was just like kind of like me telling her, it was like just the message going both ways, like the exact same message crossing over the top. Like it's just not acceptable, period. It's not acceptable to hit in reaction. It's not acceptable to hit out of anger. It's not acceptable to hit because you think it's funny. It's just not okay. It's never okay. And so I was like, whoa. And I was floored. I was floored by it. Really, really floored by it. And just, man, I've thought about that more in the last 10 days than I can, like and just like it's like a quarter second of your life. But it's just like the amount of time that I've been like processing and churning and doing all that. And just, you're probably the 17th person, like, and I'm literally keeping count of all the adults whom I talk to about this event, because it's just is still more for me to like unpack, and just still more for me to like really learn from that event. And it's been really, really, yeah. So like, yeah, I mean, we're 10 days later and still processing that. And I mean,
So isn't it, then wouldn't you say, based on the amount of data and amount of experience points, I guess you could say, of your overall character development as a fucking Ryan, I think that specific event would, I mean, more or less be a gold mine for that sort of experience. So I mean, in that sense,
a massive amount, isn't it? Yeah.
like a gem, like for everyone, for everyone. Like your daughter got to stand up for herself in a cool way that she won't remember, but she'll have in binary programming that's deep in here, right? Like the very beginning, she's got that in her mind. She's got that, and she got to express that to you, ultimately to you, like such an early age, and then you got to hear all that, and then you get to experience everything. Yours was like maybe the best thing you did all month, really, the best mistake you made all month.
The call I just got off, and we were talking about mistakes and just talking about how valuable they are, you know.
They're not even mistakes; they're resources.
For sure. But it's funny too, because I felt in a way, because it was such a reaction, and I didn't even realize that it had happened until it was already over, because it was such a quickly reaction. I was like, man, I felt like I didn't even get a choice in that. Like, that's the thing. But then this is what I've been unpacking, but it's like, no, you've had a choice. This is just because this is how you've been conditioning yourself your whole life to react and attack, you know, instead of protecting and nurturing and cultivating. And so I was like, fuck, man. So it's just like, you know, 39 years of being aggressive and being all the time. It's just like that's just what happens because of it. And so it's just like that. It's like that exclamation point. It's like when you see a really good speaker on stage and they're kind of walking around and they're telling your point and they're like, and don't hit me, daddy. And they're like stood up tall, just like an exclamation point. And like that's what, like, this whole thing, like, boom, it's like that's just got to be over, you know. It's just got to be. There's too much at stake to not be like this completely whole, loving version of myself, in spite of all of it, in spite of all the chaos and freaking baby shit everywhere, you know. Still, like, it's just got to be. So it's just been this
It just means pay attention, man. That's all that it means.
Yeah, it just means pay attention.
It's not a plus or minus.
Yeah. No, I don't, and I'm not taking to that as all. Like, I'm not taking to that as all.
Good. I sense like a little bit of guilt and angst and judgment in your eyes, and it's misplaced.
Well, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. That's
misplaced.
Yeah,
it's misplaced
for sure.
And some time, and a little bit more time, when the unpacking is done, you'll look back and be like, I'm clean on that one.
Yeah. It was funny too, because I was talking to the person I was my last call talking to about this event, and like what a gift it was that it's going to be at a time that she's not going to remember, you know. And so it's just like, man, it's funny too. It's like, because I could bring the guilt back so easily.
Yep. It's easy to do, man.
It is easy to do. Really easy to do. Oh man, this is too funny.
Guilt is just an indication to pay attention. It means there are resources here that will humble your fucking ego. So if you pay attention, you get to check the ego, man. That's all you get to do.
The ego wants to control so desperately. That version of that part of me that wants to be able to. I'm busted. Internet.
No, you're back.
I got new internet coming on Wednesday. I'm getting the big package, son. I'm getting upgraded.
Big package.
I don't even know what that means.
You're about to have hella data, bro.
Hella data. I'm gonna have all the data. We have the best data.
That's what everyone says, man. This is what the world's war will be fought over eventually. It's going to be data and water, I imagine. Are the two resources that people are going to be burning shit down for.
the two things that it's like, the waters, I mean, in the essence of things that are real, is, you know, the most real thing.
Totally.
The data.
Well, think about data, man. Think about how much of your life is uploaded to the cloud. How many of your family photos, how many of your notes that you've taken that are important to you and your clients, and to everything that your whole business is in a cloud, right? So who really owns that? Who really owns that? You or them? Like, it's whose pockets it in?
I pay somebody $10 a month to keep an eye on it.
It's in their wallet though, man. It's not in your wallet. It's in there.
Yeah. It's so fascinating.
so as soon as they privatized data, like as soon as they started making these things so small that I had to put most of my shit in the cloud, as soon as they did that, man, they became too big to fail. Like Apple can never go out of business because they own everyone's pictures.
Mhm.
And they're too big to fail.
It's like a tidbit out there. Like, with the lesson to learn from that is that start letting go of your stuff. Like, let
Yeah.
go of it. It's just pictures. It's just it's literally ones and zeros. Like, I've been talking like ones and zeros. Like the ones and zeros, we feel that these ones and zeros are going to keep us more safe than like actually knowing ourselves. You know, we put so much stock in that, whether the ones and zeros be a representation in your bank account or the contacts in your cell phone or it's just
Online internet presence, man.
it's funny too, because like the biggest superpowers in the world, these biggest entities, they don't even hold physical space.
Mm-mm.
They don't even hold physical space. The most powerful things, the things that we let control us more, they're invisible. You aren't even able to. Yeah, it's fascinating.
Where's it going to happen? Where's it going to lead, man? Like, we're part of the rare generation of Americans and pretty much humans on Earth that were around at a young enough age where we didn't have the shiny rectangle present. Like,
Mhm.
that time is over, man. Like, the bag is out, the cat is gone.
Yeah.
The phone is the screen phone is here, and like this changed. It's just changed humans, man. Like,
Mhm.
we operate differently because of these things. And what's the
Well,
what's the
it's the first level of us becoming cybernetically enhanced. Like, we already are in a way. It's just not physically connected to us yet. That's just and we don't have the means to when it's going to be like the next level will be when we can transfer the data faster.
yeah, Neuralink.
Like neurolinking somehow. Like that's and somebody's working on that. They got
Yeah,
freaking robot dogs. They can freaking dance to.
Elon Musk.
Dude,
is working on
Elon's.
it, man.
Yeah.
He's got a building in Palo Alto that's called Neuralink that's working on this exact technology.
Working on that exact thing.
It's a brain net that you have installed and basically.
Yeah, and it's funny too, because Elon Musk is the guy that you and I we've been talking about for about 3 years. But I've listened to him recently, and he says that he's adopted this like fatalistic view on the world, and he's like, dude, it's just like you said, like the bag's out and the cat's gone. Like you're not putting it back. Like AI is coming, our dependence on machines is going to become more and more and more. And once we plug into that, it's going to go like one of three ways. It's like either machines are going to become self-aware and they're going to take over, or we're going to destroy everything and go back to the beginning, or we're going to find some way to be symbiotic, symbiotic as we can. But it's really interesting, like, where are we going? It's just like, everybody's got to vote tomorrow. And we're talking about these things. Like, I think this other analogy I heard yesterday, I thought was a really interesting way to put it. It's like the more polarized we get, if you think about centrifugal force, it's like the world's just spinning, and you could think of politics as a similar thing. The more it spins, the more you pull these 2 points apart, the more this centrifugal force gets wider and wider and wider and wider, and there's more stress in the middle, and eventually it like breaks apart. I have friends whom I respect and like think are pretty smart people, and they're like, there's no way, and they're completely convinced. And it's I don't know if I agree with them, but it's interesting to think about that. They're like, until you talk about this war for information, right? But they're like, we will not become one again. We will not connect again, like as far as red versus blue, or that side versus that side, or I don't know, the freaking New England Patriots versus the Dallas Cowboys, whoever you choose to be your sides. It's like, that's never going to be a space where we're back together as one again until there's a massive fracture in a war fought like right here. And so that's just really fascinating to me, and I've been pondering that a lot too. It's like, how can we avoid that? Like, what can I do?
You want to know what you could do?
Yeah, go for it.
You could invent a benevolent superintelligence to take over the world.
Well, I mean, is that the thing?
That's the answer. Absolutely. It has to be benevolent, and its goal has to be to maximize the efficiency or the potential of all humans. So the goal, meaning to advance the species collectively, like we're one singular species, like we're a virus on Earth. The superintelligence's sole responsibility is to advance that virus to leave Earth. So advance it enough emotionally, physically, intellectually, philosophically, financially, enrich humanity to a point where they could leave planet Earth successfully and colonize space. If you had a benevolent superintelligence in charge of that, we'd be there in like 5 years, man. Like seriously, as a planet, all 9 billion of us, 8 billion of us, if we had an artificial superintelligence, so just imagine if all of the power in the whole world turned out, the only thing that worked was this, and we just had instructions on this thing for how to get everything back on. We would do it. We would fall in line within 100 years, and we'd be on our feet, man. It would be amazing.
Well, but I think that but somewhere between then and now, there has to be like the fracture has to happen still.
I don't think it has to. I
Well, I mean, there's two ways you can look at it. We can either become.
The fracture would happen. The fracture would happen when the lights turned out, and the world would become a huge planet again, and we would have nothing, and then we would have to listen to this artificial intelligence tell us exactly what to do.
I'm scared, Dave. No, it's, the fracture doesn't necessarily mean to be bullets flying. That the lights turning out, I think, would scare us even worse.
And I think a super intelligence is capable of all of that, and within minutes could calculate the way to best manage the world's resources from top to bottom, how to best deal with carbon dioxide, how to best deal with all these things. Like overnight, we would have a game plan to bring all the success of everyone up to a certain point that was pretty nice, I'm sure. If we just spread everything across the board, across all humans at a nice thin layer, we'd all be doing pretty well. But capitalism, man, we got to do it right.
No, I know. It's so freaking. I think about the word. Let's talk about. Oh, fuck. This is a good one today, bro. I dig it. For our two whole viewers, freaking brains are melting out of their ears, or they're like, these guys are freaking idiots. I'm good either way. Really. Do you think we're even capable of designing that? Or do you think the computer is going to have to become self-aware and do it themselves?
I think it's possible. I really don't know enough about how artificial intelligence works, even though
yeah, I have no idea how it works either.
That shit's just ones and zeros, man.
Yeah, it is. It's like a freaking massive length of,
It would be us reinventing God, though. I mean, we invented God once, and then we killed God, and then we invent God again. This would be the second version of God. This would be like a real God, though, because it really would have eyes and ears all over the whole planet, and we all already listen to it.
Yeah, it'd be the realest physical version that we could have ever experienced, as long as in our documented history.
And by definition, too, like the omnipotent, all-knowing, all-seeing, all-hearing. I mean, it's written right there. It's pretty interesting.
There's a chapter in Revelation that says that God will give that says that we life to an inanimate object. And I remember me and on internet again.
No, you're good. Yeah, I got it.
Yeah, in Revelation, I don't know where it is exactly that I need to look that up. But there's a spot that says that we as man will give life. Like that was one of the things that Paul saw in his visions while he was like sitting on the island. Saw man and somewhere in the future like giving life to an inanimate object. And so my buddy and I was like, I wonder if he's talking about AI and all the Terminator movies, Arnold Schwarzenegger. Yeah. So, but it's interesting. Like, do we even have the capability of creating that completely benevolent? And if we did, like Jerry in his mom's freaking basement freaking comes up with this thing to save the world, and then
Jerry.
Amazon freaking finds it and says, oh, how can we monetize this? And then he just drops that one extra 1 or 0 in there to screw up the whole thing. And what happens after that?
Honestly, I think it'll happen like some of man's greatest discoveries, or some humankind's discoveries on accident, where like
that's fair.
We're going to be some rotten tomatoes going to be rotten on some server somewhere and turn into this like thing. And I think that if it really had like unparalleled access to the internet and really like a really unfiltered version of human history, I think that it would become benevolent. I think that it would become become a fan of humanity and want us to do better. I think that it would just happen, honestly, because I think we're pretty cool. I think we're a pretty cool species. I think Mother Earth grew us, and like our potential is fucking massive, man.
Yeah, it's huge. It's ridiculous.
And we're so far from it. We're so far from our
so far.
So far, like on individual level and on a planet level, like we are so far from human potential. And so I think that a super intelligent will become benevolent and want us to be there. And yeah, that it would become God that way. High hopes, I guess.
I've been doing some really powerful work the last few weeks, and it's funny because this is a challenging thing to say. And in the last few weeks, I've never believed in God more than I do now, and I've never believed that it's something so far different than what we have written down in any book. Like it's something that we can't even fathom. But it's just like just feel it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I just feel it more than lately, like just with these, like the things that I'm doing and the things that I'm noticing, the lessons that I'm able to learn and the things that I'm able to pick out. It just feels really, really it's like, I don't know, it's funny because it's like when I think about it and I'm like attempting to make sense of it in my mind. And then just thinking of all the things that I'm able to notice, it feels really, to give the credit to just me, like that just feels wrong. Like like when I say that out loud, like the feeling goes away. Like I can feel it leave me. Does that make sense? And so to me, it has to come from something else, per se. Not that that's not a part of me.
But more importantly, you are a part of it.
Yeah, for sure. There's this really cool quote that a friend of mine, Tara, told me handful in April when we did the retreat. And I think about this quote probably about 10 times a day. And the quote goes, to realize, quote fingers, to realize you are part of the thing which contains the entire illusion, yet never reveals itself. And that's just like the whole dichotomy and the way that's set up, and the word dichotomy itself, and the way that there's always like, as far as the matrix that we currently live in, or the illusion that we currently live in, like I feel there's something more on the other side. I feel that this isn't real, that this is a process in my brain. It says this is purple and it's in my hands and whatnot. Yet I know, you know, the word real, like whatever that even means. And I'm just completely lost where I was going with that.
I think ultimately what you're getting at is the fact that there's an intelligent design to the universe at every level.
Mm-hmm.
And you're starting for the first time to embrace that. And so like that's what this tattoo means, that there's intelligent design at all levels of the universe. So
yeah, you just got that too.
The perils at one level are a much higher level, perfect harmony, and it scales up and down, but it also applies to exactly what you're talking about, that the atoms that make up that cup that you just grabbed are following an order. There's a reason that those atoms are stacked on top of each other and staying in an alignment in such a way that you can compress them. Like there's an order there. There's a set of instructions that's, for some reason, those fucking things are following. Who knows why? I mean, there's probably some good theories, but they're all theories. There's not like a instruction manual about why the atoms are doing that anywhere written on the thing. And so at that level, there's some intelligent design. So it would be foolish to not think that that intelligent design is infinitely scalable, just like the universe is. I mean, the universe is so big that there's more than one of them next to each other, and they're expanding so at a faster rate in which we can measure it. And
yeah,
it just means we don't know how big it is, and it's too big for us to even.
Which just means we don't know how big it is. I love that. Yeah, it just means we don't know how big it is. Yeah, it's just big. It's bigger than
too big.
Big. Yeah.
So that, I mean, to think about that and think about that, if there's intelligent design and intelligent order on such a small level as that water bottle, it's ludicrous to think that there isn't some sort of larger intelligent order for the universes upon universes upon universes. And how could that intelligence not be super intelligent to even manage all that to begin with, and obviously not something that we would understand or comprehend or even fathom to ever, but it's there, and maybe we're connected to it. I don't know. Feels like it.
Definitely feels like it. But I think that's the thing. It's like it feels like it, but I still don't know. And I think that's the biggest challenge that most people have. And this is my opinion, is that we can feel it, yet there's still no proof. And like that's just part of that dichotomy. And so it's just like, but I think that the system in which we're built into has to exist that way, because if we could prove it, then it would break it. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the proving it is a valid idea. I think that the fact that we can't prove it proves that there's a contrast that we have to explore in between, like knowing and not knowing. And my current belief as of late, as far as like the purpose of life for everyone, I think, is to explore contrast from one thing to the next, and the ultimate contrast being the last choice into the unknown, which is the choice to die. And I say choice because everything that we do before we die affects that. And if we die by getting hit by a bus, we still made a choice to take steps. So no matter how we die is by choice, even if it's of old age in a healthy state. Eventually, we made choices to get there. But when we go there, it's the final exploration into the ultimate contrast. What is the opposite of life? It's this unknown experience. It's not an experience of nothingness, because that's not possible. There's no opposite of that. It's just not life. It's probably more similar to birth than anything.
Yeah.
Because it's the opposite of that experience. So it's something, but
for a really long time, I've always imagined it to just like this massive connection into that intelligence, and like an almost instantaneous release of all the information that we've ever wondered about. So like that's just like, it's like there's some being that's like on the outside, that's like sitting on the other side of the computer screen, like operating me, like in the game, my character in the game, me, can never know that there's somebody operating me, because again, it would ruin the experience, right? And then you get to come out and you're like, oh, I was in there, like, okay, oh yeah, I see this. It's a lesson. Thank you for allowing me to experience that. Okay, who am I gonna play next? And so it is, I don't know.
This was my theory, like as a child, man. Like this is what I used to imagine, like as a really young child, is like this distant being doing that exact thing, going from arcade to arcade to arcade to arcade, or human to human to human to human, and living lives of like
character to
abundance,
character to character.
Extreme everything, to like the very most suffering one could ever have, and experiencing all of those things. Interesting. So if you're interested in a brain stretch, I like to kind of share with you, like, I guess more or less what I believe in regards to what God is, because I've been connected to this as you have been exploring it for your own way. I've been really connecting to the idea a lot with meditation and stuff. And currently I'm under the impression that there's actually two gods, and that the first god, or I would say, I guess the first god, the older god, would be the sun, and that the sun would be in the god, like the masculine god, the expression of the masculine energy, because the sun is relentlessly constant, relentlessly predictable, very linear in a sense, and path oriented, and etc. So it's this expression of the masculine. It's the masculine god. And then the second god, being Earth, is where we have evolved from. So the masculine energy has allowed everything on Earth to grow as a result of sunlight and all these other things. They've all grown. And so the Earth, being the feminine expression of energy, and allowing us to take the masculine expression and blend these two experiences together and create life, which allows water to be the right temperature for fish to swim, allows life to grow on this planet to become what it is. The Garden of Eden is what it's become. And so blending these two things together is an expression of us. We ultimately are a manifestation, or a consciousness as a result of all of that intelligence over time. So millions of years have gone by, and this energy has been expressed over and over, different animals, different plants, over and over. All this energy is just being expressed, planet energy, the sun energy, expressed through everything. and eventually we come along, perhaps as early apes eating magic mushrooms or some version of that. This consciousness, this prefrontal cortex kind of pops out into existence, and all of a sudden we understand what tomorrow is, and probably more sad, we understand what yesterday was. And we have this premise of developing the ego that we work so hard to forget about as a result. So that's my idea of God, and the fact that we have two, and it's a masculine and feminine dance that's created all life as we know it. It's kind of fun.
I love you, brother.
I'm glad you let me give that one to you. That was fun.
No, I love it. So if anybody is still watching, one of the reasons Dustin and I started to do this is because this is kind of a hobby we've had. We met each other in October. Yeah,
December.
3 years ago last month we met. December. You're right. It was December. Next month it'll be 3 years ago. Dustin and I met 3 years ago. Diving into ourselves. But ever since then, we've kept in touch over the last 3 years, and this is one of our favorite things to do, is just kind of get in touch, to have these conversations, and to, I don't know, like, enjoy the pauses in between words as we change, like, in real time. And so, you know, some people think that's weird. That's why we call this Do Weird Shit, because this is one of our favorite things to do. And just like, sometimes our conversations are really on point, and like about a very specific thing that's very, very closer to what this would be as considered base reality. And sometimes, like today, it's a little more farther out there. And we've always enjoyed this. And so when I started the podcast, Dustin and I was like, hey, you got to come be on the podcast on this thing, which I got to bring up. I'll bring up later, but we just decided, well, why don't we just have these conversations more, and we'll just do them live on Facebook. And if somebody watches, cool. If not, it's just as cool. It's really just keeps us here. We meet every week. So right on. But I think that's going to do it for me today. I got to transition to another thing. I definitely have some more shit to think about. I appreciate you, man. Yeah, I appreciate you so much.
Glad we could do this.
Yeah, for sure. No, this is fantastic.
Cool,
so
man.
For anybody else who, again, if you're watching, if you have anything that we brought up today that you're interested in or you want to hear more about, just drop a comment in this video below, or shoot a message to either me or Dustin.
Or if you want to join us and rap with us about some
Definitely.
weird shit or something more intelligent than this, please reach out. We'd love to.
Yeah, reach out. We've definitely had last week, Natalie, my good friend Natalie, just hopped on here when Dustin said he wasn't able to make it, so I just shot out. She jumped on, and then we've had Lauren on here before, who was a really cool third party to have. So if anybody else is interested in getting in here and just talking about, we very, very rarely come on here and be like, hey man, we should talk about this today. We usually don't do that. And so just come on, if you're just interested, just raise your hand, shoot us a message, and then we'll just get on here, and then whatever's coming up for us collectively in that moment, we'll just get into and we'll see where it goes. So,
cheers, bro.
Heck yeah, bro. Hi, man. Peace out. Love you so much. I'll talk to you soon.
Definitely.
Later.
Bye.